7, I think it's really going back to its roots. We're checking in on Sydney and we're seeing what's happening to her life, and now she's a mother and how that's affected her life. And we're really just kind of going back and checking in and seeing how life has changed for her.
What would you do if your favorite franchise pulled in $100 million on opening weekend and then one of its own cast members went on Instagram and pretty much said, "Ha, the boycott didn't work"? Because that's exactly what happened with Anna Camp and Scream 7. On March 1st, she reposted a story set to Taylor Swift's Karma that called the boycott pathetic and cheered the critics failing. Within hours, her comment section was flooded. The apology came the next day. But here's the thing. The more people dug into what really happened, the messier it got. Because this wasn't just about one actress making a bad call on social media. This was about a franchise that's been quietly handling a full-blown battle inside its own fanbase since 2023. And what happened behind the scenes after that repost? That's where it gets really interesting. To understand why the internet blew up over this, you need to go back to 2023. That's when Melissa Barrera, one of the franchise's rising stars who had been building real buzz with Scream fans, was let go from the series after posting Palestine-related content on her social media. The studio handled it like a business deal. They framed it as keeping the brand safe. Supporters called it silencing. Critics called it being held to the fire. And almost overnight, the Scream franchise went from being a beloved horror series to being a symbol in a much bigger culture fight. Planned boycotts formed fast. Hashtags started trending. Fans made shareable graphics and put together timelines and tracked ticket pre-sales in certain cities. This was not random anger from people scrolling on their phones. This was steady, planned protest from people who truly felt let down by a franchise they loved. And that background is everything, because when you jump ahead to February 25th, 2026, and protesters are standing outside the Los Angeles premiere of Scream 7 waving Palestinian flags, while the cast poses for cameras on the red carpet inside, you see that this drama never went away. The studio just hoped everyone would forget about it. They didn't. So then the movie opens. $97.2 million, a monster opening weekend by any measure. And for studio bosses, watching those numbers roll in, that was a green light to celebrate. Boycott? What boycott? The story in the trade news outlets was exactly what you'd expect. Franchise proves it's still strong. Boycott fails to dent box office. Headlines built to make investors feel good and make sequel talks easier. Okay, but here's where Anna Camp enters the picture and things go fully sideways. On March 1st, just one day after that huge opening, Camp reposts an Instagram story. It's set to Taylor Swift's Karma. It includes the words, "The boycott didn't work, the critics' hate didn't work, the pathetic leaks didn't work." And listen, whether she wrote those words or someone else did, she put them on her story for millions of people to see. Within hours, her comment section was flooded with Palestinian flag emojis, angry messages, and claims that she was laughing at protesters who had spent years trying to hold the studio to its choices. Now here's where it gets really messy. The next day, March 2nd, Camp deletes the story and posts an apology on X. She says she reposted someone else's story and that it did not match her own beliefs. She says she meant no harm. Sounds fair on the surface, right? But the internet was not having it. One viral reply said, "You have to hit 3 separate buttons to post a story," and that comment alone racked up thousands of likes. Because the thing about social media in 2026 is that people know exactly how the apps work. You don't by mistake repost something. You tap, you share, you confirm, you add, you post. That's a string of choices made on purpose. So her reason that it was some kind of harmless mix-up felt weak to a lot of people. And that turned her apology into a whole second wave of drama, because now the question wasn't just about what she posted, it was about whether she was being honest about why she posted it. Okay, but hold on, because it actually gets worse. Social media sleuths, and you know how the internet loves to play detective, started digging into where that original story came from. And what they found raised even more eyebrows. The repost didn't come from some random fan account. It came from circles closely tied to pro-studio talking points about the film's box office win. Now, that detail might seem small, but in Hollywood, nothing linked to box office image is by chance. Studios have whole teams tracking public mood. PR firms watch the language around every release. And when a franchise lives through a planned boycott, the messaging around that win is carefully shaped. So the question that started going around online was awkward, but fair. Was this truly a careless repost? Or was it tied to a bigger story push that blew up when the wrong person spread it? And then the TikTok creators got involved, because of course they did. Side-by-side clips started going viral, showing the exact string of taps needed to repost an Instagram story. Users added captions like, "You don't by mistake cheer a boycott failing." Those videos pulled millions of views in under a day. At the same time, people started pulling up old interviews and past activity from Camp's account, trying to build a pattern. Was there a history? Had she shared similar posts before? Most of what came up was loose, but that didn't slow the guessing down one bit. And here's the part that really pushed the talk beyond just protesters and into the mainstream. Neutral horror fans, people who had stayed fully out of the political debate, started chiming in. Not about Palestine, not about Melissa Barrera, about tone. "Read the room," one viral comment said. "You can win without gloating." That shift was big, because it meant the backlash was no longer boxed into one group. It was spreading. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, entertainment reporters started reaching out to studio reps. Not just about Camp's repost, but about whether the drama could actually hurt the film's second weekend numbers. And that is where the money talk gets interesting. Opening weekend headlines are flashy, but the second weekend drop is what industry number crunchers actually obsess over. If a film falls harder than expected, critics right away link it to backlash, even when the numbers land within normal ranges for horror franchises. And by midweek, guesses about a steep drop for Scream 7 started trending online. Everyday moviegoers scrolling through drama might choose to wait for streaming. Protesters might double down on pushing people to skip it. Suddenly, that single repost wasn't just a social media headache. It was possibly tied to millions of dollars in long-term franchise value, and insiders hinted that inside talks were already going on about tighter social media rules for cast members going forward. When studios start reviewing online conduct rules in the middle of a release, you know the bosses are not treating this as harmless noise. And then came maybe the most telling detail of all. After her apology, Anna Camp went quiet. No follow-up, no longer statement, no interview to clear the air. Silence. And in Hollywood, silence is never by chance. Sometimes it means pushing back. Sometimes it means a legal team said, "Stop talking." Crisis experts often tell clients to let the news cycle move on, especially when there are no legal issues involved. But here's the catch with that game plan in 2026. The internet doesn't move on the way it used to. Screenshots live forever. Reaction videos pile up. Old threads get pushed back to the top weeks later by the algorithm. So, while the studio focused on steadying second weekend numbers and steering press back toward the film's creative wins, the drama became stitched into the movie's online footprint for good. Search Anna Camp's name right now, and you won't just see her career history. You'll see boycott, debate, apology breakdowns, and Instagram repost how-tos. So, what does all of this actually mean going forward? The Scream franchise is standing at a turning point that feels bigger than one actress and one Instagram story. Since Melissa Barrera was let go, the series has been dealing with a fan base that is truly split. Some viewers never came back, others doubled down in support. What this latest mess showed is just how thin the line is between box office victory and image damage. $97.2 million sounds like a triumph. But when cheering turns into drama within 48 hours, the bosses start asking very different questions. How do you protect a franchise when every repost becomes political? How do you manage your cast without setting off even more backlash? And maybe the biggest question of all, can a series truly move forward when a large part of its audience feels completely unheard? Each cycle of outrage, defensive cheering, carefully worded apology, and slow fade leaves a mark. It reshapes loyalty. It shifts how people see you. It changes who gets cast next time and under what rules. So drop a comment. Was that apology real, or was it pure damage control? Because whether you backed the boycott or ignored it entirely, one thing is crystal clear. In today's Hollywood, there is no such thing as just a repost. If you're the kind of person who actively wants to know what's going on behind the headlines and not just the version studios want you to see, hit subscribe. I cover stories like this every single week.